Alright, let's do a review of game 203. So first this card, we want to keep the one we drew and discard one of these. Now, it is important for us to keep as many Han as possible in our hand, but we don't want to do so at a very, very great cost to our tile efficiency. So yes, if we have, let's say, a 1 so, and then we can just deal the 1 so, because holding on to these bonus tiles will give us the opportunity to get an extra Han from them. Like I said, don't underestimate the value of an extra Han in your games, because an extra Han means, usually it means that your score doubles compared to if you didn't have that extra Han. So winning a game with the extra Han is worth as much as winning 2 games without that extra Han in most cases. So if holding on to the potential for an extra Han doesn't decrease your tile efficiency by very much, you want to hold on to it. But in this case, we don't really have any isolated terminals, so we want to throw one of these. Now you could say, why don't we throw one of these? Because they're isolated floating tiles, and what if we throw one of these instead of one of these? Well, in Mahjong we want to have 5 groups in our hand. So okay, a winning hand consists of 4 groups of 3 plus 1 group of 2. So that's 5 groups. Now if we look at our hand, we have, let's say, this 1 and this 2. So this 1 and this 2 is one group. So this is the second group, the third group, a fourth group, and we still need the 5th group. So, well, the 5th group can come from one of these or one of these. So when you already have 4 groups apart from your value tiles, then you can consider throwing away your floating tiles, because 4 groups are enough in a sense. But these tiles here are actually very, very versatile, because they're middle tiles. Like any 2, 3, 5, 4 or 6 can stick to this 4, and any 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9 can stick to this 7. So and also the 8 so is the Dora, so you want to keep the 7 in case you draw an 8, and then you can incorporate the Dora into your hand. So all in all, I think most strong players would agree with me that throwing one of these cards here sacrifices tile efficiency by too much. And especially in a Tonpu Sen, where you really need to win a hand. So in Tonpu Sens, you only have the East round. The game can be over in 4 rounds, so you need to push your tile efficiency as best as you can. So for that reason, I think, like, I'm 99% certain that dealing one of these is better than one of these. And since we've decided on dealing one of these, then in that case the correct deal is the Chun, because everyone can use a Chun, as a yakuhai. So everyone can use a triple chun as a yakuhai. But only we can use a triple nan as one han for our yaku. So therefore we throw the chun. And that means that other players are less likely to be able to use the chun in their hands as well. So there we go. Now the chun is no longer possible. A triple of chun is no longer possible. I think it was all okay up to just before that I want to go to the point just before we call the 2 pin. There we go. Okay. So we've dealt away the tiles which are most useless to us, and now we're left with this pretty nice formation. And this guy just gave us a 2, and we're considering whether or not we want to chi this 2. Well, I mean, before we encountered the 2, I was already looking at this hand, of course, and mentally dividing it into 5 groups. Now I keep talking about 5 groups. Now what is this thing about 5 groups? Well, usually we want to be playing the most efficient discards that we can, especially in a Tonpu Sen where winning a hand is very, very important. So for reasons of tile efficiency, we want to get into Tenpai as fast as possible. How do we get into Tenpai as fast as possible? Well, we keep the cards which are the most efficient. Now, how do you tell which cards to keep and which cards to discard? Well, you can manually count, what happens if you deal each card. Do you get closer to Tenpai or do you not get closer to Tenpai? That's one way to do it. For example, there are computer programs which can do this kind of thing very, very fast. So for example, if we go to the Tenho tile efficiency calculator, so let's go here. So this is the Tenho tile efficiency calculator located at tenho.net/2. So you just go to your favorite browser and in the address bar you type tenhou.net/2 and you'll get to this page. So in this page you can put your hand, type your hand in here, so we can see that the hand we currently have is 2 away from Tenpai. So it's Ni Shan Ten. See, after dealing the Ton, will be a Ni Shan Ten. And once we have this hand, which other cards allow us to get closer to Tenpai? So which cards, when we get them, will change this Ni Shan Ten into Yi Shan Ten, into a 1 away hand? Well, Tenho tells you that. It tells you any one of these cards here will do the trick. But of course, calculating what happens when you discard each tile manually as a human being is pretty much impossible, especially when you have only 3 seconds to make each move. So how do people do it? Well, I used to think there was no other way other than manually calculating what happens if you do each tile. Or if you can't do that, then in practice what you have to do is just rely on a certain sense of gut feel. So previously I used to do it by gut feeling. So when I had the 7 so in my hand, I would just look at this hand and say, okay, I have this hand plus the 7 so, which feels like the least useful tile here. Okay, it's probably the 7 so, and it is. So in that case, your instinct is correct. But sometimes you run into situations where your instinct is not correct. So that used to bother me a lot for a long time, until I discovered this wonderful, wonderful book. This book is written by a guy called Daina Chiba, and he's written this amazing book on Riichi Mahjong, and he's even put it on the internet and allowed you to download it for free. So his book, you can get it at this website, riichi.dynaman.net. And this book is a very, very, very wonderful book that explains principles of tile efficiently and gives you a method to find the most efficient discard using something called the 5-group theory. So basically what you do is you mentally divide your hand up into 5 groups. So like I said, a winning hand has to have 4 groups of 3 and 1 group of 2. So you divide it up into 5 groups. So here we have 2 groups. The Manzu forms 2 groups. Whether you want to think of it as a 2-4 plus a 4-5-6, or you can also think of it as a 2-4-4 plus a 5-6. So the 5-6 will form another run of a 4-5-6 or 5-6-7, and the 2-4-4, depending on what happens, could be the pair or another set of 3, a 2-3-4 or a 4-4. Well, in any case, your Manzu group forms 2 groups, and of course your Sozu here forms 1 group. So then your Pinzu will have to form 2 groups as well. So I was dividing it into, in my head I was doing 2-4, 4-5-6, 3-4-5, 5-7-9, and 3-4. So we have 4 groups here. Now when the 2 comes along, oh no, I'm clicking back when I need to click forward. Excuse me. So let's go back there. Okay, click forward this time. So when the 2 comes along, you think, okay, now so this is what I was thinking. I go 2-4, 4-5-6, 3-4-5, 5-7-9, and 3-4. Those are my 5 groups. But I'm also thinking, in those 5 groups, I don't really have a pair. So when this 2 came along, I go, that's great. So I now have 2-4, 4-5-6, and if I cheat this, I have 2-3-4 and 5-5 and 3-4. So those will become my new groups. So I think, okay, I get this 2, I'll have 2-3-4 and 5-5. So I don't need one of these anymore. So the 7-9 looks to be the one I get rid of. For 2 reasons. One, because the 7-9 is a Kan-chan weight at the end of the board. So the Ryanman weights are the ones you want to keep, and the Kan-chan weights and Pen-chan weights you want to get rid of if you have the choice. So Qi here, And we can do that because our hand will become a Tanyao hand and we'll still have a Yaku. And now I dealt the 7 pin here, but maybe this isn't correct. There is a case for actually dealing the 9 pin in this case. Now, so if you go to your tile efficiency calculator, so you've cheated the 2, 3, 4 already, and now you want to see, okay, what actually is the best discard to make here using your hand. Well, from a tile acceptance point of view, both the 7 and the 9 will give you a tile acceptance of the same thing. So you'll get to a situation where both these 3 cards advance your hand into a Tenpai. However, the difference between throwing the 7 and throwing the 9 from an efficiency point of view is that if you throw the 9 pin, then if you draw the 6 pin, you can choose to keep the 6 pin, the 6-7 Rianmen weight over the 2-4 Kanchan weight. So actually from an efficiency point of view, throwing the 9 pin was better. However, there's also a case of prioritizing safe cards in your hand. So, the longer the round goes on, so now we're already at the 7th turn for this round. The longer the round goes on, the more likely your opponents will be in Tenpai. So you want to discard as many dangerous cards in your hand before they get to Tenpai, especially if those dangerous cards in your hand are not the cards you can use yourself to get into Tenpai. So, in the process of getting my hand to a winning hand, I need to discard, well, at least one of these or one of these. So I really want to discard the 7 and the 9. So the advantage of keeping the 9 over the 7 is that if now somebody re-cheats, then the 9 is a much safer card to throw against them compared to the 7. So that's the pros and cons of each. So cheating the 2 is definitely correct here, but the question is, was my discard of 7 pin correct? And I'm not too sure actually. It's a close call. There are advantages to keeping the 7. My Tenpai will be faster. And perhaps that's the more important thing in the Tonpu-sen, especially you want to get into a fast Tenpai once you've already cheated something. So I think now looking at it from a very calm perspective with no 3-second time limit, I think now looking at it, I should have actually discarded the 9 pin in this situation, so that if I drew the 6 pin, I could actually get rid of these 2 tiles and go into a faster Tenpai, a Tenpai with a better weight. So yes, I think now the 7 pin discard was wrong and the 9 pin discard was the correct play. So here's fate giving me the 6 pin right after that, so now I have no choice, I have to discard it. And here I was saying during the game, I'm not sure which 9 to keep here, but now looking at it, I notice that This guy has already discarded a 9-man. I actually didn't see that during the game. That's one of the things about Manzu. They're more difficult to notice on the board compared to Sozu and Pinzu. The Manzu, you have to keep a mental note of what it was when they dealt it. But of course, if there are many Manzu, then it becomes so difficult to keep track of how many of each Manzu tile has already come out on the board. Here there's only a few Manzu tiles, so I really should have noticed this 9-man here, but I didn't, so that was my bad. I'm still not keeping track of a lot of things going on the board during a game. That's something I need to work on personally. And it comes with experience and lots of practice. So if you yourself don't if you yourself have trouble keeping track of everything that's going on the board, that's fine, that's normal. Just need to play more games. So back to this discard. Since this guy's already discarded a 9-man, that means the 9-man would be safe against him. And other people would potentially have a less chance of waiting on a 9-man, so definitely my discard of 9-pin is now correct. And I think those were the only difficult points during this game, so let's move on to the next round. Actually, let's take a break because I need to go right now. I'm going to split this review into 2 parts, so we'll stop this video here and I'll get back to this review later.